Hey everyone, what's happening? Welcome to Mates TV. Was I planning on doing another video so soon after the last? No, I wasn't. But David Ornstein has reported that Liverpool have rejected a €67.5 million offer for Luis Diaz from Bayern Munich. Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about it and let's see if we can fathom out a few more of the details and maybe Liverpool's thinking and situation, because the rest of the report from Ornstein says Liverpool have a €100 million plus valuation on Diaz, but have no plans to sell him. So their stance, which has been the stance that's been publicised so far throughout the summer, is that Liverpool are not interested in accepting offers for Diaz. There has been a range of interest in him, but most concretely from Bayern Munich. Of course, there's been Barcelona rumours, and a lot of them have been sparked by his dad in recent years. But we know that Barcelona will have options on the table, particularly now that the Nico Williams thing isn't happening for them. You know, he's staying at Athletic Club. Marcus Rashford wants to move to Barca. They're trying to make that happen, apparently. But Diaz is very, very high on their list. But it's really, really interesting, this, because I want to know first and foremost, for you guys watching at home, what is your valuation of Luis Diaz? If you were to place a price against his head, what would that be? And has that changed in the wake of finding this out as well? Because I think it is really, really interesting. And look, let me caveat all of this. We're going to go on and talk about Liverpool's motivations and thoughts and feelings, and in terms of the transfer market and Diaz and what options they've got. It's impossible not to discuss this stuff without it being intrinsically linked to the passing of Diogo Jota. We can't do this without having that conversation. So yeah, it is well worth reminding. And if you're still feeling ill at ease with all of that stuff, then it's coming. I'm going to be as sensitive as I possibly can with it. But obviously there is a certain degree of it just being a kind of a statement of fact, although it's one obviously really sort of heavily shadowed with emotion as well. So I want to just get that out the way before I do, because yeah, Liverpool are facing a post Diogo Jota world as a football club and as a football team, and in terms of on a sort of squad building for the summer, that is something that will have to be factored in as well. But yeah, anyway, we'll kind of come to that. But yeah, interesting again, this stance that he's not for sale. And my initial reaction to that is, yeah, of course he's not for sale. How could he be for sale? Why would he be for sale? And now you might come back and say, well, he's in the last 2 years of his contract. It doesn't look like Liverpool are in any hurry to offer him a new one. Reports that he's on like stupidly low wages are apparently incorrect. He's on reasonably competitive, but he's certainly not at top earner. He's not in the top bracket of earners at Liverpool, and a new contract would take him up to that. But he's 28. He will be, 30 by the time his contract expires. So Liverpool are in that situation. It is a mistake with contracts that they've made in all kinds of ways in recent years. We saw it when Michael Edwards was leaving and Julian Ward had issues around offering contracts to lads they didn't feel they should do. Jordan Henderson's contract extension was a real bone of contention, ultimately not offering one to Gini Wijnaldum. We've seen a number of players heading into the sort of twilight of their careers just be allowed to go on free transfers or for nominal fees. In the instance of, well, I suppose 30 million for Sadio Mane wasn't nominal, but it certainly wasn't what his market value would have been if he'd been under a longer contract. And maybe Fabinho might be just about one of them as well. Regardless, the other end of it, of course, is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who was a player right in his prime, who was just an asset that's gone from Liverpool's books. And Ibrahima Konate is entering into that kind of sphere as well. Lads who, in an ideal world, if you're going to move on, you want to be moving on for money. So Diaz is crossing that threshold, by the way, where if they're not going to offer him a new contract, then they need to consider selling him. So why is this stance? Well, I think it's for a number of reasons. I just don't see that there's any need to sell Luis Diaz. Maybe there would have been, but again, this is the world that we're inhabiting right now. Arne Slot will want to do more business. There's heavy rumours linking Liverpool with Alexander Isak. in a summer where they've already broken the British transfer record for Florian Wirtz, they've already spent on Frimpong and Kerkez. Liverpool have gone heavy already. Really, can they afford to go to the sort of 300 plus million heavy that all the signings that they're being linked with and might need for the squad, in inverted commas, without doing some major sales? No, the sales is going to have to be a part of it. Of course it is. But for my 2 cents worth on the striking thing, selling Luis Diaz is just making a fresh problem. It's making a problem that you've then got to go out and solve in the transfer market. And right now, Liverpool are up. I think they've improved the overall level of the squad. Now, this is the team that won the Premier League at a canter, scored more goals than anyone else, had a great defence, and barring a penalty shootout against PSG, was probably good enough to have a little bit better fist in the Champions League as well, but that's certainly an area for improvement. So I would say across the board, I think with the signings in and what they had already, Liverpool have improved the squad. However, one example where they've probably knocked it down is the sale of Jarell Quansah. Really promising young player, well embedded into the first team, good enough to play centre-half at a decent level for Liverpool. Homegrown as well, which is a huge factor. And Liverpool have sold him and they've got good money for him, but it now leaves a situation where they haven't got their 4 first-choice centre-halves, as it were, are not as good as the 4 at the end of the season with, because in just very basic terms, it will be Amara and Natalo who steps up into that. Now, I have got a video on the centre-half thing that was meant to go out as the next video I've done, which will probably go out tomorrow or the day after, where I'll delve into that a little bit more, and there will be an accompanying article over on my Substack with that, which I'll tell you about in a second if you haven't heard already. But that was so Liverpool, in doing that, have kind of made a problem for themselves that they have to solve, and that's okay, because the transfer window is it's an ongoing thing. It's not over till it's over. You know, Liverpool, sometimes you can get, you do all your sales and then you spend the money on the players afterwards. Sometimes you do all your purchases and then you've got to go and do the sales afterwards, and sometimes it's a bit of a mix, and right now it looks like that. You know, they've gotten some of the real fundamentals out of the way early doors in the window, but there's clearly more work to be done, and it won't be quite as straightforward as just flopping merry bushels of cash on the table and then going, we'll figure this out later. So yeah, let's swing it back to Diaz. Before I do, yes, I have launched a Substack. We are past the first 100 free subscribers, so thank you so much if you have gone over there and checked it out. I tried a Patreon a few years ago. I just didn't get on with it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I didn't have enough ideas for video content to make it a really viable thing. And yeah, I wanted to do something that could help support this channel, but also help me grow as a creator and what have you. So I settled upon Substack because some of you will know that I harbour writing ambitions, having published my dad's book last year and helping him finish that. I've got book ideas of my own, etc., etc. But what I want to do is sort of hone and sharpen my skills. So on the shelf behind me right here, we've got the Liverpool books that I've published in the past. I want to get back to doing a little bit more of that and the creative writing. And yet again, find ways to help the YouTube channel grow. So that is the Substack. It's called Mage Publishing. It exists on there. I'll be doing free articles. At the moment, I'm just throwing them out because I'm quite enjoying the process of it. But I'm guaranteeing at least one free article, Liverpool-based article there a month. And then I'm going to add the paid offering. Now, the paid offering is turned on, but I haven't created the paid content. So don't stress yourselves out about it. If you want to support the channel, you can do the paid subscription kind of thing. But please don't in any way, shape or form put yourself out. Times are tight. There's a million things clawing for your attention. The essentials in your life, whether it's your Netflix subscription or, paying your gas and lecky. But if you want to support the channel, it's there as an option for you. If not, there is just more free reading and feedback, all encouraged. It will be the central hub for everything I'm doing around the Mage sort of thing. You'll be able to help shape future videos on this channel, get involved in discussions, etc., etc. I'll link to it in the description underneath. At the bare minimum, look, if you're not interested at all in reading more stuff, then fine, cool. Off you pop. We'll be doing these videos. You can continue to watch them here, of course, but there will be stuff that sort of surrounds these videos as well over there. If you're interested, you can just become a free subscriber, and then again, there is a paid subscription on top, but totally up to you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun. It should be exciting. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's gotten involved so far. Right, cool. Luis Diaz. For me, and I think I said this on the Redmen Originals podcast this week, but In an ideal world, if you're squad building to improve upon what Liverpool had and put together a squad that's just capable of being, the best team in Europe, best team in the world, Luis Diaz, absolutely for me, should be in that squad. He's there, he's integrated, you know what he can do. He's just a sensational footballer. He's a bum-off seat footballer. He fights for the cause. He's great. I love Lucho. I think he's fantastic. But in an ideal world, he should be, as you evolve your squad, the fourth of in the pecking order. That was a terrible way of phrasing this. This is why I need more practice. You should have a first choice front three, and he should be the next one underneath that. And by that doesn't mean that he just sits on the bench forever. No, he plays loads of games. He probably starts one of the 2 games a week, but he is effectively your first substitute. He is the 12th man in that regard, because he's brilliant on the left, he's really good through the middle, and actually it doesn't get talked about enough, but I think he's excellent on the right as well. And so if you can get to a situation where you've got specialists who are great in those other 3 positions, like Salah is on the right-hand side, and then Diaz is your understudy, then what? Mwah, chef's kiss of a squad construction. And you'll need more, of course, and it looks like Liverpool will want, if they want to go like last season, it'll be 6 players for those 3 positions, which feels like a very sensible way to build a squad. But yeah, for me, Diaz would be the top of that other stuff. If he has to be one of the main front 3, I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, we've just won the league with that, but maybe you need to consider whatever position he's playing in, the other one, you have to go and strengthen that. So as an example, if he's your first choice left winger, then Liverpool need to go and get an absolutely stellar centre forward, which again swings you back to the idea of them being interested in Alexander Isak and a few others that they've been apparently targeting as well. Because yes, right now, and this is where it comes back to them making a problem for yourself, Darwin Núñez looks like he's surplus to requirements, whether that's personality fit or footballing fit or whatever. It does look like he was always the most likely one of Liverpool's attacking players to be moved on. In addition, you've got Federico Chiesa. He'll have interest from Italy, and you could make a similar thing. Is it stylistic? Is it just fitness? Is his body capable of, enduring a full season in the Premier League? Quite possibly. We all love Federico Chiesa. I really hope that he is. And again, if you've got a world where Chiesa is your 6th choice of 6 forward options, then you have got a squad that can win absolutely everything for all time. But you would say on the scale of likelihood and who would be, getting sold or whatever in terms of stylistic fit for the team, Chiesa would be a consideration. And look, ultimately, when you add into things as well, I think Diogo Jota might have been a kind of player who might have been, Liverpool might have entertained offers for, but the reality is he was an absolutely brilliant footballer who was at peak fitness, probably Liverpool's first choice centre forward. So there's that, and now this is just not available to them anymore for all the heartbreaking reasons that we well understand, of course. So what it leaves is Luis Diaz is right now Liverpool's first choice centre forward, and he is, I think, probably our best left winger as well. I think Gakpo's great. I don't think there's much difference between the two of them, but I would still suggest that Diaz is better. What do you think? Let me know in the comments on that particular point. And I think there's a strong case that he might still be the best right-sided understudy for Salah as well. So if you move him on, then you're leaving yourself with less. You put the pressure on going to do things in the market. You then have no choice but to make your move in the market. Now, the problem you've got is, I think Darwin Núñez is very much for sale, and you're going to need to basically find someone to replace his space in the squad as well. And once again, someone will have to take up the role and minutes of Diogo Jota. Liverpool, I've lost out on that as cold and sort of a bit horribly Excel spreadsheety of it all, that someone will be sat there, at the AXA training centre, very, much more complex terms, but basically look at that and say, well, this is what we had last season, and this is what we need to, at the very least, replicate for the season moving forward, if not improve upon. So that is the real problem there, because Darwin Núñez, if they just don't want Núñez, then he will move, and then you could go in and get a replacement, maybe someone who was more of a stylistic overall fit and actually might be able to cover the minutes and output that you're going to lose from Núñez and Diogo Jota, of course. But then if you're then replacing Luis Diaz on top, that's a huge change, a massive change, and a lot of expectation placed upon the transfer department, and then ultimately the players coming in to succeed from minute one. And I think it's another one of those changes that perhaps on paper you could end up on, coming out theoretically on top. You can look at the output of a player from another league or even in the Premier League and say, well, like as an example, Jean-Philippe Mateta has been linked. Well, he scored more goals than in the Premier League than Núñez and Jota and Chiesa combined. So cool. But actually, if you make 2, 3, 4 changes to the squad in that kind of area, you're losing something in understanding and fluency between the players and how they perform on the pitch, etc., etc. So it's the intangibles where you end up down, even though you might make a case that on paper you've improved what you're doing. Like, so much of the success under Jurgen Klopp was built on that stability. He trusted the players he would rather have players who were totally bought into the cause and were prepared to fight, and he understood each other, rather than take the gamble and risk on bringing someone else in and maybe upsetting that a little bit. So that is a strong consideration in that factor as well. So yeah, I can understand why Luis Diaz is not for sale. Now the reports are that he wants to move, and that's one of those things that will complicate it. I don't know if he wants it so much that he would agitate and cause a problem over it. That is a consideration, whereas you can see that someone like Núñez, maybe you can judge in a bit of his body language till the end of the season that he wasn't having a good time, and he wears his heart on his sleeve in such a way that it's hard for him to hide that. Luis Diaz is a very, very emotional footballer as well, but it just feels like a much more steely, driven character type. If you just said to him, "No, mate, it's another year for you of challenging for the Premier League and Champions League," he'd probably go, "Yeah, fair enough. Go on, I'll crack on." So there is that, and that will be interesting to see how that unfolds, of course. And so the last point on this is that Liverpool placing 100 million valuation. Sound with that. I've seen people go, 100 million. Wow, why not? Why not? Bayern Munich are desperate. Bayern Munich are desperate to go into the market for that player. They've missed out on Wirtz, they've missed out on Nico Williams, Leroy Sané's moved on, of course. They want to make sure that they're still contenders, so that's a high priority for them. And Liverpool also know that the things that they need to do next are going to require a massive budget for it. So as much as Diaz isn't for sale, I've said this previously in other places, every player at Liverpool has their price, and that makes people feel uncomfortable sometimes, but it's not stupid. It's just that, if some club is prepared, Felipe Coutinho, Liverpool might have been better for keeping Felipe Coutinho, but there comes a point where someone offers so much money that you go, you know what, fine, deal, and we'll find a way to make that work. And that's what the 100 million, and it's euro, so we'll see, but a sort of 90 odd million valuation on Luis Diaz would be, yeah, great. Colombian international, won major silverware, is a starting player for a Champions League winning contender of a football club. Why wouldn't he be worth that amount of money? Absolute prime of his career. And look, Saudi would pay that kind of money, I would guess, for him. So that's definitely a consideration. But yeah, that's where I think that's come from. So it remains to be seen what happens, really. This for me, I think there are players you can go out and you can go and get other really good left wingers. I think you could sell him for that price and take that money and go and buy Anthony Gordon as an example, and your output would be pretty similar, and you're getting a younger player and you're getting a homegrown player as well. So there is a neatness to that. I think the left winger market there's more proven left wing options out there. I think there may be centre forward, which is why it feels like they're very all in on the Alex Isak potential, and something like that could bolt to that. But I just wonder, I think in that ideal world, you move on Darwin Núñez, they might look to move on someone like Harvey Elliott, Chiesa becomes a consideration, and then you're probably the vast majority of the way to an Isak, and then you've got Gakpo and Diaz for the left-hand side. Maybe the Chiesa thing is different. Maybe you keep Chiesa in this regard, but someone like Isak and Chiesa for centre forward, Salah on the right-hand side with a Doak feels all right. Feels all right to me. Yeah, time will tell. Thoughts? in the comments below if you would be so kind. And yeah, thank you so much everyone who's checked out the Substack so far. Once again, that'll be linked in the description underneath. Please do get involved if you're asked. If you're not, cool man. Other than that, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful week. It feels like it's going to be a busy week, right, before they jet off on tour. Yeah, we'll see. Nice one. Okay, yeah, about half an hour after finishing that video, Fabrizio Romano tweeted that Liverpool had made a club-to-club offer with Newcastle for Alexander Isak, which I think kind of backs up most of what's in this video, right? But yeah, when more happens than that, I will do a standalone video for it. But I liked what I said, and what I said about Luis Diaz remains true, I believe. Does it? Let me know. So yeah, we're going to stick with this. And then if and when more breaks on the Isak stuff, then I'll do a bit more of a standalone bit on that. But yeah, anyway, nice one.